You're listening to It Matters with Kelly Cords on AM 1240 and 95.3 FM WJON.
And welcome back. It's 11:42. You're listening to It Matters with Kelly Cords. It's brought to you by Tony's Lifetime Exteriors. Time for our senior spotlight, but this is for everyone. Everybody is welcome. But I like to have a little spotlight that really helps out our seniors in our community. And today we have Vicki Johnson with us. And Vicki is the Senior Transportation Planner with the St. Cloud Area Planning Organization. And the APO is an organization made up of elected officials from the area cities and counties who come together to discuss transportation issues on a regional level. And so she is here today to talk a little bit about that and the Looking Ahead 2050 idea as what we expect to come here in the next few years and even beyond. Vicki, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
So let's talk about this. I've heard about this Looking Ahead 2050. It's where we're looking ahead to make sure that we have the right kind of transportation for what we need for our population as we grow into the future.
So basically what we have to do, so at the APO, like you had said, we work on a regional level to look at our surface transportation network. So roads, bridges, sidewalks, bike paths. We dabble a little tiny bit in transit and things like that, but just really trying to first understand what our system is looking like today, and then we do some forecasting and looking out ahead to this year. This time, our plan is looking ahead to the year 2050 and seeing how, by adding additional people and additional development and things like that, how's that going to change the way our transportation system works today, in the future? What sort of things can we kind of expect, and then how can we improve upon those so that we don't face some of these issues?
So is this one of those things too, like, you always think about this as just a person, you're crossing a bridge, and you're like, I wonder how old this bridge is. I wonder how many people cross this bridge every day, or adding new bridges because of population increases. Is this the kind of work that goes into really figuring out things that need to be repaired, things that need to have improvements, that kind of stuff?
All of it.
Okay.
So what we pretty much do with this plan is, so first of all, a lot of these decisions that are made, where roads are built and constructed, think about, some of the common complaints that we get are just, sitting in traffic on Highway 15 or through Division is just terrible. Why is it like this?
Yeah.
Well, potentially that could have been those decisions that were made when those roadway corridors were built how many years ago are impacting us today.
Yeah.
And the way that we get around. And so what we are really looking at doing is wanting to hear from the community about, we've done some engagement initially back in 2021, 2022 to ask, well, what's working well now and what's not, and what should we look for when we are wanting to make those decisions today, so that 40, 50, 60 years from today, we aren't making those exact same mistakes, and people are like, gosh, what were those people thinking back in,
right.
2024? So that's kind of what we're looking at doing. And a lot of these transportation projects take a lot of planning, a lot of time, and a lot of money. And so, this is a significant investment, and it's an investment in the future that we don't take lightly. And so we just want to make sure that, the community is supportive of these decisions, is informed of these decisions, and that this is the perfect time for you to get involved in terms of whether you feel a roadway for sure needs to get some sort of major fix, whether you feel that there's a roadway that's missing that would really help, or anything on those lines, or sidewalk connections, or connecting bike facilities and things like that.
I'm sure a lot of this is based on, you look at facts, and there's those people that are really good at looking at the communities and how the population growth has happened for all of the surrounding areas that, kind of tie us all together. And then there's also that piece of it that's like, we don't know exactly where we're going regarding certain things. Like I'm thinking of, 200 years ago, whoever thought that internet would be a thing. Whoever thought that it would be what it is today? Whoever thought about flying cars, for heaven's sakes? I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you think are fiction, but some of that stuff becomes reality. So trying to find the middle ground, right? And that's where this comes in, where people's opinions come in. And it could be off the mark if we don't look at it. It certainly would be. But by doing this and maybe doing simulations of what it might look like works.
Yep. So exactly. So what we really start with is so the whole planning process with this long-range plan, and it takes 5 years. I like to joke, when I started this plan, I only had one child, and now I have 3. So it has taken a very long time to do this. But we start by looking at all of the data that we can gather, where people are living, where they are working, where their jobs are, which roadways are seeing a lot of traffic, what are the conditions of those roadways? How safe are they? Looking at the same thing with transit. Where does transit service go? Who the populations of like Metrobus? Where do they service? How many people are using North Star or Amtrak or Jefferson lines? And just really trying to build that just general understanding of who we are, who we are, and where we are right now. And then we look at. We've asked the community, where do you want to go? And so through that process, we were able to identify some general visioning statements about, by 2050, we really want to make sure we prioritize fixing our roadways and making sure our environment is safe, because as we know, the transportation sector itself has a really big impact on the natural environment. We've got air quality with greenhouse gas emissions. We've got, the potential for impacts of runoff from snow removal and things like that. All of the road salts go into drinking water. We build a new roadway. Animals will have a difficult time crossing that roadway. But then we also, along with our goals, we want to make sure that we know that not everybody wants to or can drive a vehicle. We've got a lot of either older adults that either choose not to drive or self-select when they want to drive, or we've got a lot of kids that clearly don't have the ability to drive, and we've got everybody and anybody in between. And so making sure that we're designing our network not just with cars in mind, but that everybody can use. If you want to walk or bike or take transit, or, if one day we get those driverless cars and you want to go and do that, perfect. But we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to be able to do that in the future, as well as for sure today, but definitely in the future. So we look at a lot of those goals, and then from there we try to forecast where we're going to be in 2050. And it sounds like a
long ways away.
Futuristic. Yeah. Like we're trying to shake a magic 8 ball and say, future, what is it going to look like? But we have some sort of data. We've got some population forecast data. We talk with our cities and counties to figure out which areas of their cities are within our area are really going to start seeing a lot of development pressure, such as where are we going to be looking at for more residential developments or apartments in the near future, or where commercial businesses are going to go, or industry and things like that. Because all of those things really impact how people are going to get around in the community. So, for instance, if you're going to put a major business in one end of town and then have your residential area in another end of town, we need to connect those two. They need to go somewhere. And how do we connect them? And so from there, we can really look at, okay, so if we do absolutely nothing in changing our system, what is that going to look like if we keep growing, if we add more people to our area, if we add more development? And basically, Kelly, what our computer model is, and it's very technical, and I'm not a modeler by any means, nor do I want to be. That's way too much math for me. But basically, it just really it shows that there are some of the issues that we're seeing, where we're seeing a lot of congestion today. It's just going to continue to get worse. And then there are new areas that are going to be popping up as well. Yeah. So then we have to look at, well, what can we reasonably do? How can we fix this problem? One of the fixes we could potentially look at is building new roadways. And so we do have, so as part of our plan, we've worked with our cities and counties to identify new roadways or adding additional lanes to existing roadways to see, like, okay, if we start doing this to the system, how can we forecast how people are going to travel and use that system differently? And then we are able to do another model run and kind of get a little bit of a general understanding about how, if we build this roadway here, how is that going to change? Are people going to use that roadway instead of, say, like Highway 15 or Highway 23, what they're currently using now? And then the last thing we've done with in our planning effort for this plan has been we've talked about the Beltline, and the Beltline concept has been around since 1991. That was the earliest I've looked at it. But that's building that bypass essentially around the core of the metro, and we're wanting to figure out how, if that entire segment and that entire concept was built out, what would that do to traffic in St. Cloud, in the St. Cloud area? So, yeah, it's a very, very technical, in-depth plan, but I guess it's really important for for your listeners out there to understand that these all take time and all take a lot of money, and we want to make sure we're doing it right. And so we want to make sure that this works for you.
Yeah. And we don't want to be short on anything. I don't suppose you have this right in front of you. I'm sure you don't. But if you could look at the St. Cloud metro area population as of this very moment compared to what it was 10 years ago and 10 years before that, do you see numbers that are really trending, that are doubling or not quite doubling, or what it kind of looks like in the past up to this point, to give you a projection of 10 years from now or 20? Obviously, we're looking at 2050, but...
Yep, so that's exactly how we go ahead and do some of those population forecasting, is looking at where that historical trend has been going. So as part of our planning effort, we do look into that as well. So one of the examples that I can give is City of Sartell, for instance. They're within our planning area, and they've doubled in population since the 2000 census.
Wow.
Yeah. So they are one of the fastest growing cities in our community. They have the second largest population outside of the city of St. Cloud. And then in addition to that, our population just in general is diversifying. I mean, we look at what the population was in 2010, where you had about 1 in 10 individuals here that was a person of color. And today, according to, as far as our 2020 census numbers are concerned, that number is 1 in 4.
Wow, what a difference. What a difference.
Yeah, and so it's a lot of these things that we need to understand about how our community is growing, and some of it is, in the case of Sartell, is very, very rapid. Some of the other communities are seeing some slower growth, but the way that where people are choosing to live is also different too. So, single-family homes are becoming more expensive for people to live, so we're seeing a lot more people opting to rent, and as a result, we're seeing if you build an apartment complex or anything like that in a certain area, and jobs are located in a different area, how are we going to connect those? Either by transit or by sidewalks or shared use paths or roadways or things like that. So all of that aspect is all really considered when we're looking at that future of transportation in our region.
Wow. Yeah, I cannot imagine the data that you must have to look at when you're trying to look at all these things. I think the number of people as far as population could be doubling or tripling. And then we're also talking making sure we have the infrastructure to get food into the area. How is that affecting our growers right now? How is it affecting our wildlife as more of us, our families are growing or people are moving into the areas? Yeah, it's so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, transportation, I feel, is one of those things, at least before I got into the industry, that was something that you didn't really think about until you didn't have what you normally did. I would never think about, I'm just going to go to work. And, I'd complain about, this road is, super congested or whatever, and I have to sit in traffic for how long, and I'm just going to go around or whatever, take the back roads in.
Right.
For instance. But there's so much more to it than just, getting you from, your from home to work. There's how do you go shopping? What time of day do you go shopping? Are you going during the morning time? And then you realize, because everybody's traveling at that time, how does that affect how your travel decisions? And we did a household travel survey back in 2021 to kind of get a little bit of insight into that, but we understand that people are just so complex, and we know that people will travel however they need to go to get to where they need to go.
Yeah.
And especially now with all this road construction that we're seeing a lot more creativity with getting to some of your routes and things like that. But that is also really important for us to understand as transportation planners. When we're making these multi-million-dollar decisions, like our planning document that we have 39 expansion projects, and we got 79 projects that are looking at rebuilding the roadways, doing substantial rebuilding of the existing roadways. And we figured that it would cost, if all of the projects were done last year, it would cost $204 million just to build the projects, not doing anything else, but just to move the dirt.
Wow.
And as the price is going to continue to go up, that price tag is going to go up. And so that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that our taxpayers are having to fund. And we need to make sure that we're doing it responsibly. And that's why we're asking for the community's help in making sure, we understand where we are. We've heard where you guys want to go. Is this the right path that we're on today?
stcloudapo.org is where people can go to get involved and take a look at some of the models.
Yep. Otherwise, you can just go to lookingahead2050.org. So lookingahead2050.org, that'll bring us right to that actual webpage where we've got a story map where if you want to dive into some of the details about that and look at, how that congestion is going to be changing and things like that. We've got a bunch of different surveys on the various projects that each of the cities or counties are looking at potentially wanting to do. We've got future public engagement events that are happening.
Wow.
If you really want to read all of the plan, we've got all of, I think they said it's 1,000 pages if you really want to do that. Otherwise, lookingahead2050.org is the place for you to go to leave your comments through September 7th.
Wow. Thank you, Vicki. So interesting. I think a lot of people are just going to want to look at this just to start realizing, wow, yeah, we do need to help out our community, do something about this. Take a look. It's Vicki Johnson joining us today from the St. Cloud Area Planning Organization. Time for me to go, but thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to be on vacation tomorrow all the way through next Friday. I'll be back the following Monday. And my co-host on our sister station, 98.1 Minnesota's New Country, is going to be helping me out and being your host. So please be kind to him. He's got a lot of work on his plate. Paul Shea will be joining you tomorrow and all of next week. And I will see you after I catch a few fish. All right. Have a great weekend.